video, we're going to get set up to dive into Drush, but first we need a copy of Drupal. So this video is going to walk through how to install Drupal using Drush. First thing I need to do is download a copy of the Drupal code into my web server. So I'm going to go into my sites directory, which is where I have my localhost web server going here. See, I have a couple sites in here already. That's fine. First thing I want to do is do the help command on the DL or download command, because that's the command we'll be using, and you can see there's a lot of documentation about it. So we'll just scroll back up here. There are a lot of options, but what we need to do is really simple. So again, here's my help command. It tells me what it does. So download will download core or projects, so we can use it for either of those. It tells me a little bit about the defaults, like that modules and themes will be downloaded to specific directories with the defaults. You can modify all these, but those are the defaults. And then you'll notice we have Drush download DL and then Drush DL Drupal, and those both do the same thing. So you don't have to put in the Drupal argument to download core. I can get projects with specific version numbers, lots of different options, and other videos will be kind of going into that more. The only thing you need to pass in as an argument would be a project if you were going to. As we saw with those first two commands, we don't have to even do that. There are also options. This is where you can modify all kinds of things about what happens on the download. I tend to use this one, Drupal project rename, because when it downloads the Drupal project, it just makes it as a with just the number, the version number, and that's a little normally not what I want. And so this little option lets me rename the actual folder that it'll be created on in my sites directory. So we'll take a look at that in a minute, though. Let's just get some basic Drush download going here. So I'm just going to do Drush DL. That's it. That's the whole command, and hit enter. And this is going to take, it's actually going up to Drupal.org and bringing the code down for me. So it takes a few minutes because it basically needs to download stuff. It's done. Once it's done, you'll see it tells me the version number I downloaded, and it lists all of the projects, all the modules and stuff I had in there. You can see on my local machine now I have this directory, and that's why I'm saying that the name, like, that's not normally a name I want. So I'm going to remove this and show you the other option. So I removed that I just downloaded it. I just deleted that. And let's run this again. Drush download, but this time I'm going to pass in, right, and an equal. So you take whatever that option name is, equal, and then I'm just going to call this Drush Fun. So I want that to be the folder name. And we'll run that, and again it'll go grab it from Drupal.org and download it. And again, you can still see it's still telling me which version I got, so I know I have 7.10. But when we look in here, I have a Drush Fun folder now, rather than Drupal-710. So handy things, the options can be, you can do lots of good things with the options and fun things. What we really want to do here now, though, is now we have the code downloaded, we want to do the installation. Normally, you download the code and then you do the installation through the browser, through the GUI, right? So you go to that directory in your browser and then you click through the installation process. We're going to do all of that from the command line, though. So the command we're going to use for this is SI for site installation. So let's take a look at the help documentation for that. So Drush help SI, and we'll come back up here. So this is our help stuff. Tells me that it installs Drupal along with modules and other things. And then again, it has a bunch of examples, so I can see how it's used. So I can either use site install or SI. I can pick the profile that I want to use, and I can pass in options to do other things. You can see here it's showing you the DB URL options, etc. With the arguments, the main profile is which profile you want, and it's standard in D7. That's what we're going to use. We don't need like the expert one or anything like that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of these options here in a second. Let me just go ahead and move into my Drush fund directory because I can't do a site installation into my database without it knowing which Drupal site I'm talking about. So now I'm in my Drupal site. You have to run this within a Drupal folder, not before I was just in a top level sites folder, remember? So I'm inside there, and I'm just going to run Drush SI. And I'm getting errors. And the reason for this is because it doesn't have any database connection. I never typed in any database information. So it's very hard for it to set up a database when it doesn't know how to connect to one. And it tells me I need to use the DB URL option. You have to use DB URL with SI when you're doing a fresh new installation and there's no database already existing. So we're going to have to use this this option here for this first time because it's going to be a brand new database. So I roll up to the options documentation. It says it's a Drupal style URL. That doesn't help me. But if you go up to the example, there's an example of one. And you can just copy and paste that. But notice that I'm copying and pasting directly from here, and there's like all this other weird junk in here, so I can't just copy paste it directly. So I'm going to put this into my text editor real quick and clean this command up here, or this parameter. So root is my user. I'm on a local host, so I'm just going to use my root account. So username, password, I'm not using a port. It's on localhost. And I can make up a database name. It's a fresh database, so I can do what I want here. So we'll call it Drush Fund. And then I'll copy that. Come back to my command line here. So now we'll do Drush SI, but I'm going to pass in database parameters so that it knows what database to use. Now, this also depends on, like, I'm using the root user, and it asks me if I want to continue. This is where Drush asks you things. So I have to type in Y if I want to keep going. Sometimes you type in a Drush command and then you go away and you come back and it never did anything because it was asking if you wanted to really continue. But I was saying you need to pay attention to the permissions of your database user, because if the database user doesn't have permission to create databases, then this is not going to work. So let me go back to my browser. We'll reload here. So now we see the Drush fund directory. And I have a site installed with a whole bunch of defaults that Drush set up for me. You'll see here the defaults for the name and password are admin. I could change those with options. I can change the site name with options. But I let everything go as default here. So I'm going to log in as admin. And I'm going to just create some content real quick. And we'll just see that the site is working. Yay for Drush. And I'll go down here and just grab some lorem ipsum, corporate ipsum text and slap that in there. Hit the old save. And so you can see now we have content on the site. So I've started playing around and doing things and yada yada. So that's the site is installed. Now you can reinstall. So I could wipe this out and start over from scratch, also using the SI command, which is really handy when you're doing development and playing around with stuff. So if I go back to the command line here, you'll see, okay, again, I have to be in my directory, in my Drupal directory, so it knows which Drupal site it's talking about. And I'm going to do Drush status, and you can see all of this information. So I have an installation. This is the information I had earlier in my Drush version, but you can see I see other information about Drupal and stuff like that. So I know I'm in a directory and that Drush is seeing that I have a site to work with and it understands which site I'm in. Okay, so I want to reinstall this site. So I'm going to use SI again. And this time I can just enter it. I don't need to put database credentials because I already have them now because I've created my settings file. And I'm going to pass in that -y parameter I was talking about so that I don't have to wait and answer its question. It'll just automatically put the Y in for me. As you can see, it did right there. Just ask the question, but put the Y in for me and then continue to run it. And it's basically wiping out my database and reinstalling a fresh installation of Drupal. So if I go back to the site and reload, let's do that. Boop. I wiped everything out and I can start over. So really, SI is really handy, especially when doing a lot of building development kind of stuff, kind of working things out. You can just pull down a site with Drush download. You can use SI, pass in some database parameters. It sets up a fresh new database for you and does the site installation. And then as you go, if you want to kind of wipe it all the way back to a clean slate Drupal 7 installation, just run SI again and keep moving. So really, really handy stuff, and we have more videos to show you how to do even more cool stuff.